We're going to start with question 14. I'll give you a minute to solve it. Okay, so for question 14, all we have to do is simplify to find it in terms of V. So we just divide L divided by S, because you divide both sides by S, equals square root of 1 minus V squared over C squared. And to get rid of the square root, you square both sides. So when you square the left side, you're left with L squared over S squared equals 1 minus V squared over C squared. Subtract 1 from both sides. So L squared over S squared minus 1 equals negative V squared over C squared. And you multiply both sides by -1. So this becomes positive, and this becomes negative. So now you're left with 1 minus L squared over S squared equals V squared over C squared. And then you multiply both sides by C squared. So there's no more space. I'm going to just write it up here. So you have multiply both sides by C squared. So you have C squared times 1 minus L squared over S squared equals V squared, and then get rid of the squared by taking the square root of both sides. Take the square root of this, and since you have C squared, you can take out the square root and the squared cancel out, so you're left with C times the square root of 1 minus L squared over S squared equals V, which is answer choice A. Okay, question 15. Okay, so for question 15, it asks you to find the half-life equation, which would just be the base times the rate, which is basically the same thing as the exponential equation, which is the base times the rate times the time, or to the power of time. So the base here, it says um, Rentiers after 200 grams of substance is applied to the aquatic environment. So the base is 200. The rate is 1/2 because it says this is a half-time equation. So this rate will always be 1/2 for half-time equations. And then we know that in 150 years, this gets halved. That means that when this exponent is equal to 1, that would be the same thing as 150 years. And so we just, for that, it would be t over 150, because that means in 150 years, this exponential part would equal 1, because 150 over 150 is 1. And that means that in this 1/2 would just stay 1/2. That means in 150 years, this initial got halved. So the correct answer here would be answer choice D. Okay, question 16. Okay, so for question 16, we're given y equals mx plus b, which basically is just the equation of a line. And so m represents the slope and b represents the y-intercept. So it asks what is the value of m, which basically means what is the slope. And this graph, as you move right 1, you move up 2. That means the slope is 2. Okay, question 17. Okay, so for question 17, we're given two systems of equations, x plus y equals 5. Actually, we're not. And then 2x equals 5. So using this equation, we could find x. 5 divided by 2 is equal to x, which is 2.5. And then we plug in 2.5 for x, which gets us 2.5 plus y equals 5. This leaves y, 5 minus 2.5 equals 2.5, which is the correct answer. Okay, question 18. Okay, so for question 18, it says, what positive value of x satisfies the equation above? Well, the equation is 5 times x minus 3 times x minus 1 equals 0. Well, for this to be true, one of these two parentheses has to equal 0. That means either x minus 3 equals 0 or x plus 1 equals 0. And so the two values of x are x equals -1 and x equals +3, because 3 minus 3 is 0 and -1 plus 1 is 0. And the positive value from these two is 3. So the correct answer is 3. Okay, question 19. Okay, so for question 19, we just have to find value of x. So we add 0.6 to both sides, which gets us 2.4. So 2.4 equals 3x. And then you divide both sides by 3, which gets us x equals 0.8. And that is the correct answer, 0.8. Okay, question 20. Okay, so for question 20, we're given that there's a square inscribed in the circle. So this is our square. It's a bad square, but it's a square inside of the circle. And we're given that the radius is 6 root 2. So if this is the center, this would be 6 root 2. This would be 6 root 2. This would be 6 root 2. And this would be 6 root 2. The radius is always 6 root 2. And so now when you divide it up like that, you can see that we've basically divided up the square into triangles. And so if we just take this top part of it, we know that this radius has to be 6 root 2. This has to be 6 root 2. Well, now this is a right triangle. So now you can just do a squared plus b squared equals c squared to find the length of the hypotenuse. So first, let's just convert this. First, let's just unsimplify this. So 6 squared is 36 times 2. So this 6 root 2 is the same thing as root 72. That's not 72. So 6 root 2 is equal to root 72. So that basically I just unsimplified this by taking 6 squared, which is 36, and then multiplying it by 2, which gets us root 72. And so now we do a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So root 72 squared is just 72 plus the other side length, which is also 6 root 2. So 72 plus 72 equals c squared. 72 plus 72 is 144 is equal to c squared. Take the square root of both sides and you get c is equal to 12. Okay, so now we know that the side length of the square is 12, and it asks us what is the perimeter of the square. Well, since square has all equal sides, it would just be 12 times 4. So 12 times 4 is equal to 48. So the correct answer is 48. Okay, question 1. We're now on the calculator section. You're allowed to use a calculator on this part. Okay, so for question 1, we have s equals 4. What is the value of 20s minus 15s? So 20s minus 15s is the same thing as 5s, because 20, this is basically like 20x minus 15x. That's the same thing as 5x. And then if x is equal to 4, we just do 5 times 4, which is 20. So the correct answer is D. Okay, question 2. Okay, so for question 2, it's asking us during which year was the number of space shuttle launches the greatest? And so number of launches is on the y-axis, so that it's just asking which one of these is the greatest. This would be here, 9 launches, which happened in 1985, which is answer choice D. Okay, question 3. Okay, so for question 3, it's asking what fraction of the Australian marsupial series are from the order, not going to try to pronounce that. And then so if we go here, we can see that this corresponds to this. And it says what fraction of the Australian. So we just have to look at Australian, which would be 24. So 24 is our numerator. And then our denominator is the total number of Australian marsupial species, because it says what fraction of the Australian marsupial species. So we just have to look at Australian. So we do 1 plus 71 plus 24 plus 2 plus 137, which when we plug into our calculator gives us a total of 235. So we have 24 over 235, which is answer choice B. Okay, question 4. Okay, so for question 4, it says 10 beta points, blah, 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 which of the following estimates the predicted value of y when x equals 6.5. So we go to the graph, we go to 6.5, we go up, we look at what the y value of the line predicts, which is 16. So the correct answer is D, 16. Okay, question 5. Okay, so for question 5, we just have to turn the percentage into a decimal, which will just be 1.2. So 2,000 times 1.2 is 2,400, which is answer choice C. Okay, question 6. Okay, so for this question, we're given that the perimeter is 960 feet, and we're told that 1 foot is 0.3048 meters. So we just have to multiply 960 by that conversion factor. So 960 times 0.3048, which is 292.6. So the correct answer here is answer is B. Okay, question 7. Okay, so for question 7, basically you just have to know what a box plot is. So this part here, this is the maximum value. This is the minimum value. This is called Q3, which means that 25% of data is above that point. This is Q1, that means 25% of the data is below that point. And this bar here is the median value, which means that when we look at the question, this would be the median value, and it asks us which of the following could be the median annual cost. We go down, it's like pretty close to 1600, just slightly above. So the correct answer here would be answer choice A, like about 1625. Okay, question 8. Okay, so for question 8, we're basically asked to find what is this linear relationship. And so we're given speeds and pulses. And so we just have first, let's find the slope. So change in x and change in y. So the change in x between 4 and 6 is 2. And the change in y between 77 and 87 is 10, which would mean the slope is y over x. So 10 over 2, which is equal to 5, positive 5. And the only answer choice with a slope of positive 5 is answer choice C. So that would be the correct answer. Since when our speed increases, our pulse increases. When our speed increases by 1, pulse increases by 5. Okay, question 9. Okay, so for question 9, it says that the population of Wisconsin, we're just going to say that Wisconsin is 96%. 96% of Baltimore, Maryland. So Wisconsin is 96% of Maryland. In 2010, Maryland's population was 595,000. With Maryland's population is 595,000. Baltimore, or sorry, um, Millique's population was 595,000, which is Wisconsin. So Wisconsin's population was 595,000. Was following is the best approximation of Maryland's population. And so Wisconsin is 595,000. So you just divide by this converted into a decimal, so divide by 0.96. Alternatively, you could also notice that when you divide by a decimal, this has to result in an answer that is greater than 595,000. And the only answer choice which is greater than 595,000 is answer choice A. You could also plug this into your calculator and also get answer choice A, but that would require doing more work, which you don't want to do on this AT because that takes time, which is not a resource you have. Okay, question 10. Okay, for question 10, he stopped to rest for 10 hours out of 143 hours. So 143 minus 10 is 133. And then if his average speed while traveling without resting was 5 miles an hour, how many hours did he travel? So just multiply this by 5. 133 times 5 gets you 665, which is the correct answer, or answer is A. Okay, question 11. Okay, so for question 11, it says that each of the 25 data values, that means there's total of 25 values, and it says which of the following intervals gives exactly 2/5 of the values, so 2/5. Well, let's just convert the denominator into out of 25, since there's 25 total data values. So 5 times what is 25? Well, 5 times 5 is 25. That means we have to multiply the top by 5. 5 times 2 is 10. So 10 out of 25 is the same thing as 2/5. And then so we just need to look at the frequencies and figure out what frequencies would add up to 10. And so looking at the entrances, 1 to 20, 7 plus 5 is not equal to 10. 11 to 30, 5 plus 3 is not equal to 10. 21 to 40, 8 plus 3 is not equal to 10. And then 31 to 50, 8 plus 2 is equal to 10. So the correct answer is answer choice D. Okay, question 12. Okay, so for question 12, we're told if the number of students participate in 2 extracurricular activities, so if 55% X equals 120 plus 120 more than the number of students to participate in 1 extracurricular activity, which would be 30% times X. Convert the percentages into decimals, so 0.55x equals 120 students plus 0.3x, because 30% is 0.3. Subtract 0.3 from both sides, you get 0.25x equals 120. Divide 120 by 0.25, which is basically the same thing as multiply by 4, which would just be 480 equals X. So the correct answer is B, 480. Okay, question 13. Okay. For question 13, it says it takes her 15 minutes for her ID, and it takes her 20 minutes for her driver's license. The graph represents all the possible combinations. How many minutes does she spend doing this? Well, simply we can just get rid of one of the variables since they gave us that option. And so let's say she only does driver licenses that day. Well, number of driver license she can process, if she processes 0 IDs, would be 27. So 27 times, will take her 20 minutes per driver's license. So 27 times 20 is equal to 540, which would be the total number of minutes. So answer choice B. Okay, question 14. Okay, so for question 14, it says, what is the y-coordinate of the y-intercept? Well, the y-intercept is where x is equal to 0. And so if we plug in 0 for x, 3 times 0 is 0, so we have negative 12 in the numerator. And then we have 0 plus 2, which is 2. So negative 12 over 2 equals y, which is just negative 6. So the correct answer is A. Okay, question 15. Okay, so for question 15, we just have to test all these different equations and see if they include all the points. And so let's start with answer choice A. So for this one, I'll just graph these. So add graphs, and then graph y is greater than negative x minus 2. Okay, and that gives us this graph, which is everything you see that's blue. And so, I should probably just draw it. 1, 2, 2, 1, 2. It goes like this with intercepts of 0, negative 2, and negative 2, 0. And it includes everything up here. And that means that it does include all 3 points, which means that the correct answer is A. If the correct answer wasn't A, we would just go through the others and also graph them. Okay, question 16. Okay, we're given a figure, A, B, C, D, E, and we're told that BE is 2, so this is 2. We're told that BC is 4, and we're told that AC is 10, so this entire length from here to here is 10. And then we're asked to find ABD, which is this triangle here. And so to find that, first let's find out this missing side here. So there's just a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So 4 squared is 16 equals 2 squared, which is 4 plus the last side, should be b squared. So 16 minus 4 is 12. Square root of 12 is equal to b. So this side length here in this triangle is root 12. So if this total is 10, the length from here to E would just be 10 minus this length from E to C, which would just be root 12. So 10 minus root 12 gives us this length. And then we're asked to find the area of this triangle. We have the base. You would multiply by the height of 2, so times 2. And then you typically divide by 2 since it's a triangle, but we also have to account for the bottom side. So you divide by 2 and then multiply by 2, which just basically gets you the same number. So we're still left with this equation. So 2 times 10 is 20 minus, first let's just simplify root 12. So root 12 is equal to the same thing as root 3 times 4. So root 12 is the same thing as root 4 times 3. And then we can simplify root 4 is equal to 2. So that's the same thing as 2 root 3. So root 12 becomes 2 root 3. So 2 times 2 would be 4 root 3. So 20 minus 4 root 3 is the correct answer, which is answer choice C. Okay, question 17. Okay, so for question 17, first we have to find the mean and median. So the mean of this data set would be number of years of experience times number of teachers. So 1 times 4 is 4, plus 2 times 7 is 14, plus 3 times 8 is 24, plus 4 times 4 is 16, plus 5 times 2 is 10. Add all these up and divide by the number of teachers, which is 25 total teachers, and you get a mean of 2.72. And then for the median, we just have to figure out who the 13th teacher is, counting from the left. So you have 4 plus 7 is 11. So the 13th teacher would be at 3, and it wouldn't be at the edges. It would be like sort of like here, like closer towards the top. So the median is at 3 and the mean is at 2.72. And so if you add a teacher with 2 years of experience, well, 2 is less than 2.72, so it would bring down the mean. And then for the median, since the median wasn't at a very edge, or I mean, I guess you could just calculate it again. 7 plus 1 plus 4, that's 12. And then the median would be at 13. So 12 is less than 13. That means the median would stay at 3, which basically means that the median would stay at 3. That means it wouldn't change, while the mean would decrease from 2.72 since 2 is less than 2.72. So the correct answer is C. The mean will decrease and the median will stay the same. Okay, question 18. Okay, so for this question, it says that after the new shipment arrived, there were 330 backpacks in the store, and it had 60 backpacks in stock. And since we're trying to find X and Y, which is the number of backpacks revealed in shipping, we'd have to do 330 minus 60 to find out the number that were revealed in shipping. So 330 minus 60 is equal to 270. So our answer choice has to have 270 as the total, equals, and then it says the number of wheeled backpacks was twice the number of wheeled backpacks in stock. And so X is wheeled backpacks. So 2X plus, and then it says number of backpacks without wheels was 5 times the number of backpacks without wheel in stock. So 5Y, 2X plus 5Y equals 270, which is answer choice B. Okay, question 19. Okay, so for question 19, the fastest way would probably just be plugging in. And so for A, if we plug in negative 25 minus 5 is negative 30 times negative 25 plus 5 is negative 20. So negative 30 times negative 20 is like, I don't know, positive like 600. So that's definitely not a minimum value. For answer choice B, if you plug in negative 5, well, negative 5 plus 5 would be 0. So this will always multiply by 0. So B is 0. Answer choice D, if you plug in 5 minus 5 is 0. So D would also equal 0. So that means since both these answer choices are equal and this one's greater, the correct answer would have to be C. And if we plug in 0, 0 minus 5 is negative 5, 0 plus 5 is 5, so negative 5 times 5 is negative 25. So the correct answer is C. Okay, question 20. Okay, so for question 20, we're basically trying to find the slope and the y-intercept. And so for the slope, let's just use 2 points. So 5.2 is at like 95, and then let's just use 6.2. It's at around like 115. So 115 minus 95 is 20. So the slope is like approximately 20, probably a little bit less since, I mean, at the right side, it seems like it levels out. So for answer choice A, we have a slope of 1.6, which is way too small. For answer choice B, we have 1.6, which is also way too small. And choice C, we have like 16, which is pretty close to 20. And answer choice D, we have 16, which is pretty close to 20. So it could be C or D. So that means the slope has to be 16. And then for the y-intercept, we just have to work backwards from x equals 5 to x equals 0. So at x equals 5.2, it's at 95. So let's just go back to x equals 5 and say it's 95. So to get from 5 to 0, you decrease x by 5. So you just do 5 times the slope. So 5 times 16, which is equal to 80. And then you'd go back from 95. So 95 minus 80 is 15. So the y-intercept is approximately 15. And for these answer choices, 15.2 is pretty close to 15. So the correct answer is answer choice D. Okay, question 21. Okay, so for question 21, we're given a line, ax plus by equals 6. What is the value of b? Well, let's just make it easier for ourselves. Let's just get rid of a. How do we do that? Well, we just set x equal to 0. A times 0 would always be 0. So at x equals 0, y is equal to -2, according to the graph. So -2 times b equals 6. 6 divided by -2 is equal to -3 equals b, which is answer choice A. Okay, question 22. Okay, so for question 22, we know that 0.04 is the base. We know that 1.22 is the rate. And we know that L, well, instead of time, this time we have L, which is length in inches. And so what is the meaning of 1.22? Well, it means that for every change in L, which means every change in inches, so for every 1 inch in length, the estimated weight of the trout increases by, well, since 1.22 is a rate, that means it has to increase by a rate. And so the rate would be 1 plus 0.22. The rate would be this part, which is 22%. So the correct answer is B. For every increase in L, which is 1 inch in length, the estimated weight of the trout in pounds increases by 22%. Okay, question 23. Okay, so for question 23, we're given essentially a circle, and we're asked theta is an angle. If sine theta is √3/2, what is cosine theta? Well, so for this question, it's mostly just memorization. As you can see, the radius of this circle is 1, and typically, if you've taken pre-calc, you know that this is a unit circle, and so a unit circle is basically this, where, well, I'm sure I don't think you can see that. But basically, it's a circle, the radius of 1, and it gives you a bunch of values, so 0, 1, 1, 0, and then at theta equals 45, it would be √2/2, comma √2/2, and then for 60 degrees, it would be 1 over 2, comma, root 3 over 2. And then for 30 degrees, it would just be opposite that. So it would just be root 3 over 2, comma, 1 over 2. And this basically cycles around the unit circle with the additional negatives and all that. And so for this one, also the other part of the unit circle is that sine theta is just the y value, and then cosine theta is just the x value. So if you do sine 45, you get root 2 over 2, and cosine 45, you get root 2 over 2. If you do sine 30, you'd get 1 over 2, and if you do cosine 30, you'd get root 3 over 2. And so this question is asking if sine theta is root 3 over 2. And so that happens here. It also happens here. It also happens here. And it also happens here. It happens in 4 places. And when we're looking at the graph, we can see that it's asking about this one here. So if sine theta is root 3 over 2, what is cosine theta? Well, that would just be this, but reversed since it's to the left of the origin, which would just be negative 1 over 2, comma, root 3 over 2. Which would mean that sine theta is root 3 over 2 and cosine theta is negative 1/2, or answer choice C. So this is something that's basically mostly just memorization that you'll learn in pre-calc.
Okay, we can end this session now. And next week, it will be the last class and for this batch. So see you all again next week. Until then, bye-bye, everybody.